guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Monette and this is my channel, Evolve with Monette. For those of you that are new here, I am a professional intuitive empath. I want to thank you for inviting me into your lives today, for clicking on my channel and sharing some energy with you. Today we're going to get right into it. I have this beautiful message for you and it's an important question. But before we get started, I want to give thanks with a grateful heart for being adorned so thoughtfully and so beautifully by my friend Simbala. She has a channel here on YouTube. I'm sure she will comment below. Please click on her icon and go to her channel and find out things you may want to know. She is an artist and she is incredibly talented, and she sent me a little springtime care package, and I thought how lovely and how delightful. I very much appreciated it. And then inside, among some other lovely trinkets, this was in there, and I will tell you that it blew my mind, because I know I'm a crafter myself and I know about the detail that goes into these things, and I can see each stitch that she put on it to fasten so fastidiously all of the jewelry and hardware and the gorgeous springtime flowers. Even the ends are adorned with leather trimmings. This one is a star. There's hearts underneath because she knows that is very important to me. Everything was so well done. It is such a beautiful piece of work. She's an artist, and I've worn some of her other art that she has shared and gifted me with, but it is fantastic. She is brilliant. She is grounding. She is a fairy who is not flighty. Who knew? They exist. I am so incredibly grateful. And what she doesn't know is that I was going through a whole thing where my angels were tasking me to clean up a mess that I made. And yes, y'all, doesn't matter what kind of practitioner you are, we still sometimes make messes. They were asking me to clean up a situation and take accountability for the situation and for what I had allowed to be set into motion. It doesn't matter what other parts anybody else plays. It matters when you're at the end of something to really take a look and see how you could have done something better, where mistakes were made, where flags were missed, etc., etc. And I didn't share that journey, especially the last part of it, with anybody. I was very much intentional, focused, and spiritually working just with my angels and ancestors to extricate me, like the claw hand, y'all, the way that they love me, to extricate me with the least collateral damage possible. And this, what Simbala doesn't know, and so when you watch the Simbala, you will understand fully, was a gift from my angels that they kind of like whispered into her ear to send me, because I believe in gifting people when you graduate from certain lessons in life, or when I can tell, like, if I'm in your life, that's something that I would do. But because this is something, especially the disillusion of such, was something that I kept very personal and private, because I knew that it had to be. It was very much a spiritual lesson and test for me. And so I didn't share it with anybody, actually, at all. Nothing. Not a single word, not a single peep, not to bestie, not to friends, not to family, not to anybody. And so when this arrived in the mail, this beautiful package, and I'll share another part of it with you that was kind of fun, and then we will get into the message. Thank you for your patience, guys. But I have to give my flowers to this beautiful artist who blessed me and was listening spiritually to the fact that I may have needed a little pick me up and an acknowledgement. But also, this is really important because this crown is symbolic of graduating to the next level. She didn't realize it. She did not understand. Spring has sprung, new things, coming to life. Beautiful flower work here, just absolutely gorgeous. But what my angels said to me when I opened this package is, we watched what you did, sis. We saw how you handled this. We saw how, when you realized that whatever you realized about the situation, that you they asked me to deal with it a certain way and not my normal way, and I didn't do it my normal way. They also said, when you pass this test, you will never be tested like this again. And for an empath here, a little old earth angel walking amongst all of the folks down here, you guys know what it is for us to have repetitious lessons. And I definitely have had a repetitious lesson in one area about a thing, and my angel said, if you can conquer this and not make this be a multi-year nonsensical suck and drain on your life's energy, and then don't look at us when it turns out to be as diabolical or as cold or cutting as it could be. They said, could you pull yourself out and forfeit what seems like gratification, of which there was none? And could you trust us? And if you do, we promise you new things will be sprung. I had no idea what they meant when they said that to me. They gave me very specific messaging. They led me on a rabbit hole. It was such a powerful, I can't wait to share it with you when I've fully formulated what it was and what the lesson was. But here's what you do get to see the preview, which is that I passed the test. Surprise! I did it. I surprised myself because there are certain things in your life that will be kryptonite for you. That will be a thing that could take you out if you let it. And I was so frustrated. And my angel said, if you can just listen to us and actually do what is healthier for everyone's highest good, we promise you that only beautiful things will be in your future, and only real connections and only real makeups for what happened. You'll never exist in this space again. And that is such a powerful message. And they followed it up with a gift, because my love language is gifts and words of affirmation. Well, words of affirmation first and then gifts. And what's so specific about this, specifically, my friend said to me, when we chatted, when I called to thank her, she was like, you know what's funny is, like, gifting is not like a big deal to me. I only do it when I really feel called or if it's special. And she was already quietly working on this flower crown for me, and so she added in some other really lovely trinkets as well to the to my package, which I will cherish. But this was the piece de resistance for sure. It was in a beautiful cigar box that I will keep forever, wooden cigar box, and it was just so special. But she didn't realize. So Symbala, if you're watching, and I know you are, thank you, because this was their way of crowning me and gifting me something, because they saw that I did something that was incredibly powerful. And I literally broke a very toxic cycle in my life where I do something, and I promise, guys, I'm not being cryptic I'm not being cryptic to just be cryptic. I will share this with you, but I'm being very guided about how, when, and how to make it a really proper, healthy thing. And so what I will share, though, is this, is that I knew that this was my angel's way of saying, we see you. We saw what you did. We saw how you handled it. We saw how you cut your losses, so to speak, and realize, sometimes you got to take an L. Sometimes you just have to take an L. You win some, you lose some. But even if it's not about winning or losing, not being in my fire sign energy, and my friend Symbala is a fire sign too, so I really, we relate in that regard. I can be incredibly passionate, incredibly passionate. And my angel said, because you decided not to do what was natural for you, in many ways, which also would have been allowing it to play out, they said, what you get is a gift. We crown you, and you've graduated. You know how at the end in the Bible story, when the flood came in and there was a rainbow and there was a promise that you will never again, the world will never be flooded. That's why the rainbow happens. So the world will never be flooded again. Whenever you see a rainbow after the rain, it is a promise from God that will never happen again. This crown, this hand-sewn, handcrafted flower crown from a real artist, a successful artist, for me was a symbol and a signifying that I will never be in that dynamic and situation that I extricated myself out with the guidance of my angels. All praise to God, all praise to Source, all praise to ancestors that have my back and walked me through every step of that. And they said, you did it. I was so frustrated because I'm like, is this always going to be my life? Am I always going to, one after another, think that I have maybe fixed it, found it, fine-tuned it, and then bump into another, unfortunate situation? Like, is it Lemony Snicket? It's a series of unfortunate events for me. I was like, how, Sway? How, angels? How, when I only give the best energy that I can to the collective? Why would this be something you guys would want for me? They said, we don't want it for you. And the question they asked me was, do you want it for you? Do you want to be treated like this? Do you want to repeatedly end up in situations like this with persons that Shapeshift, do you want that? No, you don't. And so if you don't want that, you have to tell us no. And I said a big resounding no, complete with a lot of emotional and spiritual work behind it. And my angel said, say less, sis. And here's the thing, you never know if it takes. Like, I know that I meant what I said, what I did. I knew that how I felt, but this crown was the evidence that they're not only going to hold me down, but that I will never have to spin the block around that again. That situation, that scenario, it's not even about the entity that it manifested. Because, guys, have you ever noticed that you get repeat tests over and over and over again, and you may leave a situation, a job, a person, a family member, only to have that test show up again, but in a different body? Well, that was what was happening to me. I was living a very specific kind of hellacious Groundhog Day with the same thing happening to me, but in different ways and in different entities. I would say entities would be accurate. And because I finally said, I'm fed up with it. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. This doesn't make any sense to me. Why on earth would I stay connected to duplicity? I can't. And my angel said, okay, finally you get it. And then the flower crown literally appeared. And it was so special to me because no one knew what I was going through. No one knew that it was happening. And, you know, she wrote me this beautiful postcard. By the way, I was amazingly, like, so enthralled because I love a gift and it made me happy. She could have, and I told her that you could have sent me a paperclip from Zimbabwe and I would have been like, a paperclip from Zimbabwe. Anyway, I'm eternally grateful. It's not about prices or anything. It's about energy, and the energy that went into this is just spectacular. But what I will say is that I was immediately 5 years old when I opened the gift, and there was a card in there. She had this in like an envelope and a card, and like any good American, I bypassed it and went straight to the gift. I'm embarrassed because what ended up happening is this postcard was the best part of it. Like, if you can't tell, it's the San Francisco Bridge, and it says San Francisco today, or the Golden Gate Bridge today. Can you see that? And then when I turn it, it says 1935. And then can you see how there's nothing there? I hope that's translating on the screen. So it's this beautiful hologram effect card. And I was like, ah! My internal 5-year-old was just like losing my mind. And then she wrote me some, beautiful stuff on the back. And I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. But she says, this is what matters. She says, sending you this gift box to celebrate spring and to honor our budding friendship, which was really sweet. But the celebrating of spring was what I will really like pay attention to there. Everything else was lovely and personal. But what I really appreciated was she didn't know that spring had sprung for me. That by dealing with a situation that had been plaguing me my whole life. It wasn't about a certain entity, energy, or person. I had been dealing with the same situation all my life. All my life. And grinding on my life. And my angel said, are you done? Are you ready to make the sacrifice? Are you ready to give this to us and to stop putting yourself in these situations and to realize the power of your energy and to realize that these angels that work with you love you and are mighty protective of you? People always think that when I'm talking, I can only imagine they're like, this bitch is so full of herself. Like all these angels and all this angel talk until they see it happen, until they see it play out, until they watch what happens when they try to play with me. And then they're like, oh, we should have listened to the words coming out of her mouth. She wasn't just talking some bullshit. She wasn't just some crazy person on the street talking about Jesus is coming. No, I know from which entities they might want to be running from, because the truth is I am highly protected and highly loved, and the truth is if you're watching this, you are too. So maybe this is a crowning for you. Maybe there's a situation in your life, I'm just channeling that as I'm talking here, that you have passed, which will no longer bring you despair. Maybe you've made a choice to stop being in situations that bring you pain because you think it will bring you more or less of the same. You don't realize, because sometimes we can dupe ourselves, or sometimes we can be duped. But if you have an angel pantheon working with and for you, you're never going to be fully taken, or shook. I promise you. And this is a crowning. I pass this to you. I share this energy with you. There's something in your life you might have just passed. There's a test you finally passed. There's a way that you will look at people differently, or that you understand what you're dealing with at long last, is what I heard. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty. You are free at last, and spring has sprung for you, and you have a beautiful crown of flowers and glory too. And I love my angels. Thank you guys so much, because I felt very loved when I opened that package. It wasn't, yes, I loved that my friend sent it, but I knew that what she didn't know was that she was working in tandem with my spirit team that said, put this in the mail for Monette. She deserves a little thing. She just went through a thing. She just conquered a thing. She finally figured out a thing. And she realized that love is what they want to bring, kindness is what they want to bring, and honesty and communication. There's so many things that I learned in my last lesson that I can't see it as despair. I only see it as a blessing. It was probably one of the better things that happened for me, because my angels adore me and they were with me every step of the way, even until the end, when they said, it's time to go back out and play. Spring has sprung and the flower crown is being sent your way. I love it. I love it so much. So thank you, Simbala. All right, that went on longer than I expected, but I needed to share because you have a flower crown, even if you can't see it there. You guys have just graduated from something and you will never, ever repeat that lesson again. And that's the biggest blessing, y'all. When I tell you the relief I felt when my angels were like, that's it. You did it, sis. You finally figured out this level. And that doesn't mean, you know what they say, new levels, new devils. I'm sure I'll dodge a few more, and I will teach those lessons when they come. Not that I welcome it. I'm done. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired, boss. I am so tired. So that part, we good. We exhausted. All right. So this is what I wanted to talk to you about. When I was chatting on the phone with my friend, so all credit to Miss Simbala. She was talking about the thought for me was spiritual hygiene. She said something, and it's one of the reasons that I find her thought process really interesting. She was talking about, do you know where your demons lie? It's where my demons lie. It's where my demons lie. We hear people sing about that all the time and talk about it all the time, but she is really in tune with it. One of the first conversations we ever had, she talked about how she saw herself going to the dark side, becoming narcissistic, or becoming in her shadow side because of like toxicity, abuse, things that had happened to her. We all can dive there and have that duplicity. And I really loved her honesty because I was dealing with a situation where someone was not being honest. And so it was a nice juxtaposition. It was like, oh, this is what honesty looks like. But in any case, which is that we're not all right. And that sometimes we're full of shit and whatever. And that's honest. That's all of us, myself included. And so she was saying that thing, do you understand your shadow side and your demons? And the idea of spiritual hygiene has been something that's really prevalent on my mind. You have to know who you are before you are connecting with anybody. That's a huge, big lesson. You have to know who you are. You have to know what your bullshit is. In order for me to pass the test that I just did, I had to be very in touch with the things that could beguile me and could pull me in and that could limerence me. I had to understand what my kryptonite was to any degree, because I was up against a new entity. This was a new experience for me. It was I'd not really dealt with anything like this before. I had dealt with configurations, right? Like I said, it will shapeshift and go into different bodies and all that stuff. But this specific kind of energy that I was dealing with made me very aware of my shadow side. It's so ironic. In the beginning of that thing, I remember saying to the person, to the entity, this reminds me of Lord of the Rings. My angels are so funny. They be talking the whole time, okay? They are talking to me the whole time, and they're talking to you too. And what they described was that a person's energy could be very much like the ring, where people want to get attached to it and hold on to it. The full circle of it was, literally, as I was putting on this crown this morning in the mirror and getting ready to come out and chat with you, they said, you were the ring the whole time. Guys, that message, you were the ring the whole time. A lot of times we put a lot of power into other people's hands. And my angels showed me what would happen, but they did it backwards. They made it seem like it was about someone else when it was really about myself. And if you know what Lord of the Rings is, there is a ring that everybody's chasing specifically. And whenever it gets into people's hands, they become their incredible deepest shadow side. Shout out to Simbala and that message. Or they can also do great good. They're incredibly powerful. And sometimes when we get into our human attachments, we can give that power away to people thinking that they might possess that. But it means that you want to possess a thing. And so when someone's holding on to the ring, and then when they get it, at first it's all fine, but the longer they hold on to the ring, the longer it corrupts them, because that's just the nature of power. And it's really a metaphor about power. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So at first, you intend to do good. You think of all the good things you can do, all of the magic that is within you, and then it gets corroded, which is the shadow side which exists in us all. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. There was an experiment that was done in the 70s where they put high school students that were all A students. They were all like straight A honor roll students, and they split them up into a dorm. And they said, you are going to be the masters and the lords, or like you're the overseers, interesting word, of this dorm. And you guys are going to be like the people that they rule. You're like to listen to their rules. You're to do the chores and whatever. These were boys. It was a set of boys that were both not a set of boys. It was like, I think about 20 or 30 boys, but they split them up. So 15 on each side, but they were all each of them, every single one that was in there was like an honor roll straight A student, dean's list student. And they said, you guys are like the in charge ones. You guys are the submissives or whatever, right? Maybe the submissive it reminds me of submissive because of what happened, but you are the ones that are to be subordinate. Maybe that's a better word to them. This is what absolute power does. And they left them in there. And the experiment was supposed to go on for like a month. They left them in there for about a week. They had to stop the experiment because what was happening was that there was SAs, there was grapes that happened, and there was torture and other unbelievable, depraved things that happened from the boys, teenage boys, I should say, that teenage boys that were given the ability to be the rulers over these other boys. Now, in normal society, they were both on the same playing field, but when given sorry, I thought I heard something. When given power over the other boys, they became depraved, sadistic rulers. That's the allegory of the ring. When you have power over someone and you know it, how do you use it? And the greatest power of all that we have is love. So in our relationship dynamics, you will find out who people are and who they are not. You will find out who you are and who you are not. Do you understand? And that means that if you can turn into, as they did, the bully, you will. Or if you will be the person, like I think one of the boys like broke out and finally like told, they were watching them through cameras and stuff, but this is back in the day. They had to stop the experiment because it went in the absolute wrong way. And that is what happens when we have interesting and shifty power dynamics and you don't understand their shadow. Each of those boys on the surface all had parents that had taken them out for ice cream. Congratulations. Had hung up their plaques in their houses. They were the cream of the crop of their classes, all 30 of those boys. But when they were put into that situation, they turned into rapists and sexual abusers. You guys get it? It's wild. What will happen? Not all of them, but whomever did, that was always in them. That was their shadow side. And so Symbala brought up a really good question, which is, she's been doing a lot of inventory about her shadow side and what it means, and maybe I'm here to offer that to you. Let's talk about your shadow side and what it will and won't do. Do you know who you are? Do you know what your triggers are? Do you know what your demons are? Do you know the thing that you'll like risk it all for? You have to be in touch with that. That can't be ignored when you're on this spiritual journey. Yeah, it's all love and light and flower crowns and all that fun stuff, but the other side of it is your demons, and that shit's tough. That's where it gets really into the like thick of it. What is it that can make you lose your shit? What is it that'll make you go off on someone? What is it that'll make you treat your friends and family badly? Come on, I'm preaching to somebody. All of us empaths here have had an experience where someone has treated us badly or differently because maybe they got into a relationship. But have you ever been the person that treated someone else differently because you were in a relationship? That part. You see, what are your demons? And you will have all these moments to examine it, but you better learn what and who you are before you are otherwise connected. Because when you get into these other connections, the thing that happens is you can very easily lose yourself. That ring energy is very powerful. When I said that the full circle of it was that I realized I was the ring, For many people in my life, I have underestimated my power and my prowess. That's another thing you need to know. So if people are like, oh, you're being cocky or whatever, no, you need to be very, very aware of how powerful you are, because if you don't see it, someone else will. And a lot of us that have been in those narcissistic empath dynamics have had people that have known exactly what the fuck they had in their hand and didn't want to release it, and you're confusing that for something else. I sure know I have, and I did. I certainly have. So I am not realizing in situations like, why don't they want to let me go? It doesn't make sense, especially if I don't feel the genuine energy that I know I need to feel in order to feel well loved, liked, or cared for. Why don't they want to release me? Because the power that you have, empath, changes people's lives. It lights up people's energy. It brings luck and fortune to people. And if you don't know that about yourself in your highest self, your power and prowess, then someone that is in a lower vibration will absolutely see that shit and be like, yoink, thanks, I'll take it. But you also need to know your shadow side, which means that there's people that can cause you, or entities or energies that can cause you to not be in your highest vibration. Energy is so contagious, and it's something I pay so much attention to. But energy, like anything else, can be very insidious. So be careful for those you let near you. You know, we hear all these old adages from our aunties and mamas, you know, birds of a feather and all that stuff. Well, it's always true. But it doesn't matter if you are the highest vibing person. The people around you can affect you. I've watched people get into relationships and connections with people not really understanding what their shadow really was and what their proclivities to be in their lowest vibrations would be. They would get with someone else who was very comfortable with their shadow and lower vibration, and then suddenly the water meets. Suddenly these two people are acting a lot like each other, and then you guys have seen that body snatching things that have happened, right? Where you're like, I don't know what happened to my friend. She started being around this other girl, and then all of a sudden it was like mayhem. I literally had that happen in my life. But I knew my friend's shadow side. She was not willing to be honest about what her shadow side was, but I watched it play out when she got with someone that she could share that with. She could hide it from me, but someone else she could be in the depravity with, except that depravity cost you something in the long run. And because she wasn't honest about how delicious that shadow side, demonic side energy was to her, and it will be delicious, y'all. That when I tell you, it's always delicious when you get the ring. But because she wasn't so sure about what that shadow side energy would bring, or the mayhem and chaos it would bring, she went into it pretending to herself, because we will lie to ourselves first, won't we? Pretending to herself that it wasn't what it was going to end up being. Not realizing that the devil always makes you pay a price when you're staying, and that the very thing you could get into could turn on you viciously and coldly and surprise the fuck out of you. But it's because you chose not to see that that's what a shadow side energy will do. And if it links up with you and it stays in you long enough, it will corrupt you. And that's why I say, talk to your spirit team. My angels protect me all the time, because I will be dawdling off into someone else's shadow side. And I also have my own shadow side. I know exactly what my delicious kryptonite demon things are. I know exactly what things can push me over the edge. And the devil does too. And they always send new little tests my way to be like, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? But here's the thing that you need to know about when you're being tested. There will be no satisfaction from whatever the test is. That's the trick of the devil, is always to get you into something and then be like, oh, did I tell you I was going to do this? I never meant it. It is all that always happens. And it's not about the entity that jumps into whomever's body. I've started to really like separate that, because I'm like, oh, this is just spiritual warfare. I will be dealing with this for the rest of my life. But I remember watching that friend that I'm talking about specifically think she was like the devil comes in and makes a deal with you. It always does. And she thought she was going to get what she finally wanted. I don't know what it was that she fully wanted, but she thought she was going to get what she finally wanted out of a love situation very specifically for her. And that it was ideal for her, and that she could be herself, and that the person knew whatever. And she ended up being one of the most controlling, demonic relationships that really obliterated everything around her in her life, because that's exactly what the devil wants, is to have you be isolated and alone. And her angels were talking to her the whole time until they stopped talking. Her ancestors were talking, and then they started talking to me. They're like, can you save her? And I was like, I can't. Sometimes my angels and ancestors and other people's ancestors come in like I'm the Marines, like I'm the last one in to like go pull someone out of some shit. I'm like, this is not Saving Private Ryan, y'all don't pay me enough. This is above me. this is crazy shit. I'm not going to be involved in this devilry. And that was real demonic shit. But it was because she was not honest about what her delicious demon shit was. You need to take a look at yourself. What can make you be an asshole? What can make you devolve? What can make you blow off people? What can make you treat people badly? What can make you blow off your own integrity and your own promises that you have made to yourself? That's your demon side energy. Is it drugs? Is it alcohol? Is it love? Do you know how many people I counsel that are love addicts that really, really will lose their whole life up into another person, a person who is fallible, human with their own demonic energy? And it is something that we all, I mean, love feels delicious, right? I'm thinking of that song, and I may do a reading off of it today. Teddy sings, problematic. Problem is, when I'm with you, I'm an addict. You can absolutely become addicted to people. And it gets toxic because you're not infatuated. You're not invested. You're not in love. You feel like you need them for some level of supply of energy for you. And that is problematic indeed. But that's a demonic energy that you need to be in touch with because it can take you out. Meaning you can meet someone at a bar and be like, oh, it's just going to be like a whatever thing. And then all of a sudden they have overtaken your life. And if they are in touch with their demon side and you are obtuse to yours, this is a thing that happened with one of my clients, it could take you down a very dark and dusty road. That dark and dusty road caused one of my clients DUIs, jail time, being away from her kids. And we could identify and pinpoint it back to where her demons live. Do you get it? You need to know that someone could come in your life and have the ability to get you so far off your path, and it will be insidious. Maybe that's the reading name that it needs to be, because it will happen slowly, especially in those love addict situations. But if it's alcohol, if it's whatever toxicity, low vibrational thing that you might want to do, it could, be something that overtakes you. So that was a great conversation starter, Symbala. I told her I would make a video of promises made, promises kept. I absolutely think you need to invest in understanding who you are and where your shadow is. So today, here's how I suggest you get into it. How do I do that, Monette? Get out your handy pen and paper and write a list. I want you to write the 5 things that make you feel your most lowest vibrational. What does that mean? What would make you treat someone badly? Would you ever? Maybe write that down. Examine that. What do you love more than anything? Write that down. Examine that. Because, like, let's say you love marshmallows more than anything. That means that if someone offered you the keys to a marshmallow factory, would you cut off your mom? Does that make sense? Would you cut out your favorite family members or friends? I know that seems really silly and simple, but you make it work for your life. What makes you act out of sorts? What would you blow off people for? What would you stop being your normal, kind, caring, emotionally available self for? What could turn you mean? When do you feel mean? Identify some of those things, because that simply deals with your demons, and that lets you know that if someone comes in that tickles those demons with you, then there is absolute havoc that you could do. You need to know that about yourself, because to see it ahead of time and to know that you could turn into this like person is to know that you will absolutely get lost in that sauce, and your angels want you to understand that, because if you can head it off at the pass, you won't have to be as involved, and you will not be like my client who had to rebuild her life, which she did. She is fine now. She is married. But when I started working with her, my God, she was like, why has God forsaken me? I said, God didn't forsake you. You forsaked you by not paying attention to your shadow side and pretending like you could handle what his demons did do. But she recovered. Beautiful story arc. But what a hellacious thing she had to go through, because she was not honest about the fact that he tickled the demons in her, just like he was dispatched in and supposed to. Yes, people are sent in to test you. In order for me to get this crown that adorns my head today, they sent in energy to say, what are you going to do? Do you want to play? Do you want to dance? And I did. It tickled a lot of my demon shadow side. It was very delicious to me in a lot of ways, except it wasn't. It was very much like any false promise that lower vibrational dark energy will bring. I'm showing you this thing, but it's really going to be this thing. And it's never what you think. And I wish I could teach that to my clients more. So maybe you come across this video and you will understand. If you got past the first 15 minutes, I'll put a little sign at the top here. If you don't want to hear about the flower crown, you don't have to. But you do need to hear this part about the demons and you. What are your demons? And then what is your spiritual hygiene in conclusion? Spiritual hygiene is to understand how you take care of yourself when you are dispatching energies, cleansing yourself from those energies, and understanding when you need some downtime. Do you need to be outside grounding? Do you need Palo Santo sage? Do you need a salt bath or shower? These kind of things keep you emotionally prepared and safe for the day. It seems like a lot of extra precautions to take, but it is not. It absolutely keeps you that way. Do you need to listen to meditation music? Do you need to meditate? What is your spiritual hygiene? Because the closer you are to your ancestors and angels, and the more you communicate with them quietly in your own spaces, the more that music will speak to you, science will speak to you, animal totems will speak to you. The more that you will understand that you are loved, and you will get the messages that are meant to come through. The whole time that I was dealing with the situation that I finally conquered, that afforded me this beautiful crown that was sent from my lovely friend in California with the beautiful invite to San Francisco, which is so metaphorical and special to me. That song, I always love that. If you're going to San Francisco, make sure to wear their, oh my God, that's so funny. Make sure to wear flowers in your hair. Well, when I arrive to San Francisco, Symbala, I will have flowers in my hair. She invited me out, and I always love to travel, so that will be a trip that I definitely make. When I'm going to San Francisco, I will be sure to wear the flowers in my hair. That's so special. But that was such a special song to me, and I never told Symbala that, and it means something to me metaphorically. My angels are blessing me and telling me, oh, we got your back. Everything is going to be lifted in light. But what I'm saying to you is, in order for me to get this crown, I had to do all the stuff we just talked about. I had to understand where my demons were. I had to understand who I was and who I wasn't. I had to understand what it meant to be attached to someone else who maybe wasn't as honest about where their demons lie. I had to understand what I asked for in my life, because whatever I want, I get. And I'm not just saying that to be like flippant. It's just a very real fact. But the thing is, am I specific with what I'm asking for? Whatever I want, I get. And what I wanted was more in alignment with my demon side and my lower vibrational side than it was with higher ascension and whatever else. I wasn't really letting my angels take the wheel. I was taking the wheel to a certain degree, and then they said clean up on aisle 10 as it needs to be, and that's fine. I'm so happy. Literally, y'all, very much for how it worked out. But it doesn't mean that I didn't have to do everything that we just talked about. So if I come here to you talking to you, I promise you I just walk through something. And I go through stuff all the time, privately and quietly, but I will always share it with you in whatever respectful way that I can, so that you get the message. Clean yourself, do your salting, do all of that stuff. Cut your cords, do all of that. That's spiritual hygiene, cord cutting too. And do all of that, because you don't want anybody's energy attached to you. And especially if it's going to bring you down. And that's specifically how come I got this crown, because I finally realized, like, oh shit, here we go. I did it. It's my fault. I did it. And there's nuance to that, but the first step of any setting free of yourself is to take full accountability. You can ascribe blame later, but first you have to say, how did I participate? That's truly how we grow, and that's why we are great empaths and earth angels. Spiritual hygiene, what was it saying? There's something in my hand. The ring. You are the ring. That's what they're saying. People want to be attached to you, and they want to be attached to your power and your energy because it makes them feel good. If I had literally $1 for every time I get off the phone with a client, even a friend, and they say, I feel so much better for having just talked to you. That's what I offer, but there is a transactional exchange. People pay me for that time, or if I'm in your friend group, then I expect reciprocity. You will have some good advice for me. I'll have some good advice for you. But I know what my energy is, meaning I'm very in touch with my light and shadow side, but I'm also in touch with my demonic side as well, my shadow side as well, and how I can be a whole handful when I need to be. Sometimes that handful energy is there to protect you or me, but people want to be attached to your energy, guys. And don't let that was a real tricky part for me in this last lesson, was understanding the difference between someone's desire to be attached to me and actual affection and care. And the two did not meet. It was not there. It was more about the other. Does that make sense? So as I was looking in the mirror, my angel says, you were the ring. I never thought that this whole time I was going through this lesson, that never crossed my mind. They said you were the ring the whole time. Please don't underestimate your power, guys, because when you do, people will take advantage of you. Even if it is not what they intended to do. You need to hear that. And that was what I had to hear in order to not devolve into my demon side to deal with this situation. I stayed very light about it and actually graduated, hence the crown, right? But people will turn into the ring. That ring analogy stands, meaning at first you get the ring and you're like, it's no big deal. I'm super cool. I'm gonna, like, I remember the White Witch Fairy, and that was like the one that really stuck with me, probably because I love fairies and also because of magic and metaphysics. Like, that was a character I connected with the most always. And she started out, she was like, I will be the best fairy in the land, and I will feed all the elves, and da-da-da. She had all these really altruistic intentions. But the longer you sit with the ring, the more it can make you not healthy. There's also a message here about transit or temporary transitory relationships. You're not always supposed to be in something for the rest of your life. You're really there to like clean up something, help, edify, and lift. There are very few people that get to be lifetimers with you. Reason and season is really real, and I think that we get very lost. I know that I did. That was literally one of the things that I got to break when I got this crown, was the idea that someone has to always be around. No, they don't. People are specifically dispatched into your life for reasons. In that case, the energy and entity that I was dealing with when it was on the lighter vibrational side was really only there to teach me human design. She was there to bring me human design, and upon doing that, we really could have ended our connection right at that moment. But all the other human things happened, and I have to own it. Does that make sense? But my angels showed me exactly when it stopped being a fruitful and positive and healthy connection, because they were like, all we wanted her to do was give you this. We needed you to know this so that you could ascend. And ironically, guys, pay attention to what gifts people bring you, what information they offer you, and whatever. Ironically, the thing that she brought me helped me to understand how come it's so full circle. It's so good. The thing that she brought me, the more that I delved into it, the more that I researched it, helped me to understand exactly why the connection that we had literally couldn't stand. She was the antithesis to the very thing that makes me, as in my human design, I'm a projector, and so that makes me feel comfortable and at ease, edified, loved, and supported. And that is communication. And everything in her body was the antithesis of that. And so, and in her energy, it was such a test for me, because it didn't start out that way. Nothing ever, remember, it's this and then it's this. It never starts out that way. But the more that I learned, there is a book that one of my clients recommended. Also, there's so many things. Don't be worried that if someone is to bring you something, like, what else will happen after? Just because her job was done with what she dispatched to me doesn't mean that my angels didn't pick up the ball and say, okay, now we're going to really feed you. Now that you're not distracted, we're going to really get you back to where we needed you to be, because you have work to do and work to teach. But one of my clients recommended a book that lifted the fog for me on it, because I was lost in the sauce regarding trying to figure it out. And I'm an avid reader and studier. And so I was like, how come I can't get this? Well, it was for such a time as this. That client literally was dispatched in to be like, and she shares decks and books with me all the time. Like, we mutually share, like, here's a thing you might like, or da-da-da-da. And she heard me talk about human design, started researching it. I said I was going to teach it. I hadn't taught it. So then the angels tapped her and said, tell her to get this book so she can teach it. So it's so funny. She invited me to teach by actually sharing the book with me that decoded some things for me and helped me to really understand it. But the person that was dispatched in to teach me, or just say the word human design to me, because it's not like, she shared ideas with me. She definitely shared clips and this and that. So I want to be so fair and give all credit for that. But that was her only job with me. My angels made it so clear. They're like, do you see? This was it. We needed her to get this to you. And because we know how you pay attention, we put 20 on 10. We knew you would pay attention if it was in this certain area and package or whatever. They know me, okay? I'm trifling. That's my demon side. Does that make sense? The angels know exactly how to get your attention sometimes. And so they got my attention, and I paid attention, and I never will not know that. It will not be a part of my life. But the full circle of it is the thing that she delivered and gifted to me, the information and knowledge of such, was the very thing that helped me understand why it was just tempted to touch, but it was never to be touched. It was never to actually be solidified. It was never to actually really come together and coalesce, because everything in her natural proclivity would only leave me vexed. And I want you to understand what that means. In my human design, my not self, which means that you are out of alignment. All four of the signs have a place where you are out of alignment, okay? And it means that you're not happy. So everyone feels it differently. For me, I was just on the phone with a manifesting generator last night, a client, and her not self is frustration. That's when she's out of alignment. For me as a projector, my not self is bitterness. That's when I'm out of alignment. And that means that I am not whatever leads you to feel bitter. And my interactions with that entity, that's how I knew she was only there to give me one thing, always left me feeling frustrated, and it could have led me to feel bitter. My angels really wanted me out of it before bitterness set in, because then when you're bitter, it's like calcifies. You have so much to work through when you get to the point of being bitter. And my angels are like, we've been talking to you about this the whole time. You knew what it was, you knew what it wasn't. You definitely wanted to be more, and because you wanted that, then the devil plays. That's all it was. But all we really had in store for you was to understand. And we knew that if you would have actually paid attention, which I didn't, it took me months to really pay attention to the human design because I was distracted. And they said, had you been paying attention to this human design, you would have been out of this a lot faster, because all the energy that was brought to you by this entity, we never wanted it to last. It was always supposed to be a disaster. And if you understood who you were in your human design, you would have got to it faster. Man, my angels be playing. They said, no, you're playing. And because had I had researched and really done what I was supposed to do instead of being distracted like I was, I would have figured out that I never felt good around this energy. I never felt, it was like moments of it quickly, but it was always this weird shit that I was like, what? And when I read, I can't wait to read it to you so you guys can understand, but when I read the part in the human design in the book where it talks about what you need as a projector to feel safe, which is like clear communication, edification, this and that. It was exactly what was missing in that connection. And my angels were like, duh, we gave you the answer. My angels are so funny. They're like, you're a teacher. We gave you the cheat sheet. We literally had the person that was the lesson give you the cheat sheet for why this person shouldn't exist in your life. And because you were on some fuck shit, where my demons lie, I did not read it. I did not research it. And finally, they sent in my God-blessed client. Thank you, Cali. Oh my, the California connection lately for me has been popping. I was supposed to be back out in Cali. Going back to Cali. I'm clearly going back to Cali. But I'm a different person than I'm talking about with the flower crown. But my client was like, girl, get this book and start teaching these lessons because I need more understanding and you will break it down, and I certainly will. Now it's a mandate because it worked for me. Literally, I saw how even that relationship dynamic was never going to work because that person was not going to give me anything that I needed to be able to be okay in my life. Meaning the most basic thing, which is communication, which is my bloodline and life as a projector. It is to actually be able to clearly communicate. And they're like, do you always want to feel bitter or nah? And I was like, oh, you're right. This was never supposed to be anything other than this. That was the quick snapshot of it. But where my demons lie had me on some fuck shit. And if I don't do anything, y'all, I'm going to come here to you and tell you the absolute God honest truth. I was on some fuck shit. And that means that I had to grow up and grow out of it. And guess what? Ching! I did it. I did it. The flower crown said I did it. So thank you to the beautiful hands that fastidiously sewed this. And thank you to the angels that helped me know this. And thank you to the client that sent in the book so that I could teach and take a look and break myself out of something that almost had me shook. Come on, B! Almost had me shook. But we free. And that's exactly what your angels want you to be. If you're here, you are now free too. Under the sound of my voice, you have other work to do. So if there's been anything that's been distracting you, if there's been anything that your spiritual hygiene needs to be tightened up because it's not so clean, then you have work to do, my queens and kings. Get out there and get on to better things. That's the energy that this flower crown brings. So good sharing energy with you guys. Come back and join me next time with your honesty and know about where your demons lie. And listen, I'm going to give you a little homework assignment and a little challenge to myself. Write down your demons lie energy, and I'm going to go live here in the next week, and we're going to just talk about where you've identified your shadow side, because I think it's of something that we don't often speak. I think that we empaths are all about this love and light, and I think that the real juice and the real dirt and the real grit and the real growth is where our demons lie. So good sharing energy with you. Come back and join me next time. We'll continue to evolve together.